Yo, what up, Mason?
Yo, what's up, Adam? Great to
Nam,
see you.
great to see you too. We are back and at it with
Woo!
episode 32 of the Assemblage Beverage Podcast. Um, what's going on? I know you had some technical difficulties over there. It
Oh
was,
yeah, that was fun to get set up. I'm hardwired in today. I've got an old computer. It's probably time to upgrade, to be honest. Annoying, but whatever. It is what it is.
yeah, we're in, and now
We're in.
you're hardwired, so like there's nothing that
Whole
knock
internet
on wood.
connection.
knock on wood. There's nothing that can go wrong. I see we're both drinking some wine tonight, which I think since we've started doing this, it's the first time we've actually drank wine on it's a beverage podcast, but like the roots are wine. I think it's the first time we've drank wine together on this podcast. So we drank Four Loko before we drank wine on our wine beverage podcast.
I guess with our timeline of life, it makes sense because that's how it all began.
That's true. That's true. Now we're, after this, all we can do is like drink scotch and like bourbon neat, not even on the rocks, just like a big old 4-finger pour of bourbon. And we'll be fucking hammered the whole podcast. It'll be great.
What are you talking about? I got you.
We're just mumbling on for 45 minutes straight. And then it's like, okay, we should probably cut this off. Or your wife and my fiance will come in the room and be like, you guys need to go to bed. Like, what's going on? What are you drinking tonight, Mason?
So I'm drinking a little Riesling. So I've got here is Emmerich Schmalberger. I'm going to definitely say that wrong. That's a Riesling cabinet style. I don't know. The camera is not focusing in on it. It's not going to work. Oh, wait, can you see?
There you go.
There it is. There it is. Anyways, it's delicious. Light, crisp. Super nice. I don't know. Just crushable. Had it with dinner tonight, which was little fried chicken cutlets. So living life right now. What about you? What are you drinking?
I'm having a little champagne. So before I show this label, I talk mad shit to people about like people who buy wine at Kroger. Like I'm just like their wine selection sucks. You know where my ass bought my bottle of wine tonight? Fucking Kroger. and it kind of like it was good because I don't really look at the wine in Kroger all that much. Like I talk shit and then I'm like, let's see, there might be some steals. There's no steals to be had. Shit's expensive and their selection's garbage. So I had some champagne, but like it was a little bit like, not that this isn't a special occasion recording a podcast, but I'm like, it's a Tuesday night and I'm not trying to like ball out. It's like wines that I want to share with people. And so I just got a bottle of Moet and Chandon Imperial Brut. Without the Kroger card, this would have been $85, which is ridiculous. And I think it was like 61 with the Kroger card. So shout out Kroger card. If you're gonna buy wine at Kroger, make sure you got that Kroger card, or else they're taxing the shit out of it. And it's not bad. It does the trick. I had a long day today, so I needed some bubbles in my life. So, today we're talking about wine grading and wine rating systems. So I'm sure if you've ever
gone to a wine store.
Yeah, been to a wine store. You've probably seen, like something on the price tag, like whatever the store's price tag looks like, or maybe you've seen a little like gold sticker on the bottle of wine that says like 90 Wine Spectator. Maybe you've gone online to buy wine, Vivino, wine.com, there's a ton of them out there, and you've seen like some initials like JS or RP or WE with a number. Excuse me. So we're going to kind of break that down and just kind of talk about, what those numbers mean and kind of what we like to use, and when we buy wine, kind of how we sort through those ratings and kind of find what works for us. So I guess I'll just jump in.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about how rating wine started. And I don't know if this is like, because I did a ton of research on this, like so much research. I opened so many pages on Google, and the the first like OG wine rating person, at least per Google, it was probably Wikipedia too. Pliny the Elder was the first wine rating person, and back in ancient Rome. So, I mean, I guess I don't really know what they'd be rating, because I'm pretty sure they weren't like being shipped wines from around the world, and like U.S. wines weren't a thing. So I don't know the logistics behind that, but I guess he was the OG wine rating guy. So pretty cool.
I guess it would go by just like who the grower is,
Yeah, I don't even think like what were they bottling it in, like clay pots and shit. Like,
yeah, definitely
the
old fashioned.
The stability of wine back then was like the shelf life on a bottle or a
jug,
like
a
jug
clay
of
pot.
a clay pot of wine was like 48 hours, and it was vinegar. So I don't really know how he could be rating wine, but anyway, he apparently rated wine and beer. So moving into this century, or this within this 100 years, Robert Parker was kind of the first one to kind of make a name for himself in rating wine. I'm sure that there's people before him, people after him, but he was kind of the first person that and he kind of became the gold standard of wine rating. So he founded the Wine Advocate in the 1970s, which was a bi-weekly wine newsletter. And now it's, still like Robert Parker's wine ratings are still like the most, it's the gold standard. Exactly. Yeah. People look for that. He started off by rating wines from Bordeaux, the Rhone Valley, and California. And then, like I said, he's not the first one and he's not the last one, but he's kind of the first person that people started to like listen to, and like, that bi-weekly newsletter, people were like opening it up and like, what wines did he rate and what ratings did he give? It kind of became like the whole thing.
Yeah. He did like one really important thing that kind of just set him aside or set him apart from everybody else. And that was changing the grading standard from a 20-point scale to a 100-point scale. So something that the American brain could kind of comprehend a little bit better. And, we were school A's, B's, C's, that's what it was all A, B, C, D, E, F, you got an F actually. There's no E. Sorry about that, y'all. Actually, E's were in like preschool, middle school, E for excellence. It was like top tier, but that's not a real thing. Anyways, A through F, that kind of scale got in your head makes sense. And it's a 100-point scale, even though it starts at 50 and goes to 100. So,
kind of
very weird.
Yeah. And why I guess I've never really thought about it. Maybe there is a reason, but like, why is there no E in a grading? Like it's A, B, C, D, F. Like what happened to the E?
E's for eradicate, get out of here, evacuate. I don't know. You got nothing.
I don't know. It's kind of weird, but anyway, doesn't matter.
So, that change kind of made it so that the American mind could kind of understand his grading scale and kind of work towards that and like, be like, well, a 90 is an A. That's a great wine. Or an 85 is a B. Well, it's still a good wine. It's not a B plus, or it's right at the B range, but that kind of idea.
Yeah, and it is interesting. Like some people won't rate wines under like a 90. Like if it's like a 90, they won't put their name behind it, which is kind of interesting. But like I don't think that they would rate something that's like, they wouldn't give it like a 50. Like this wine's like, it won't.
This wine's a 51. You're not getting.
You're not getting a rating. At that point, it's just better to be unrated, than to like have. It's kind of like a health inspection, like you get that like, okay, you got your health inspection, but you got like a 74. Like, what got you that 74, you know?
There must be a lot of issues.
Yeah, I'd rather just say like, oh, the health inspector hasn't been here in a while. Okay, like I'm gonna take my chances rather than like you got a 74. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but next is James Suckling. So he kind of made his name rating Italian wines, wines from South America. I know he does some stuff with Australia. And I know he rates other things too, but that's kind of like where he got his start, I guess. And actually, like, I won't jump into it, but James Suckling's, he's a pretty cool guy. He did I think he started it back up this year, but he did like a Wines of Italy kind of trade show. And I went to it, I remember it was like March 2nd, 2020. So like,
right before COVID.
Well, no, it was like during COVID. It just like, it was before people actually like knew what COVID was, or they're like, people were still like, well, I'm not going to get into it, but it was like before the whole worldwide pandemic started. Like, so I remember being in Chicago at a hotel, and there's probably, I don't know, 500 people at this, and it's like hotel ballroom. And there's all these wine producers from Italy. There's a big like charcuterie station, and people are like not using the tongs, you know, they're just like barehanding like fucking prosciutto and like fucking olives and shit out of the bowl, like savages. So that was probably like, patient zero of COVID was at that wine trade show. You know, like people are picking up spit buckets and like spitting out wine. It's like fucking disgusting, but no one was wearing masks because again, like it was not a real thing yet. And I got to meet James, and he was super nice, and it was a really great time, and it was free because we were in like the wine industry. So it was kind of a nice, like, I think there's like 100 producers of Italian wine. I think there's like 500 different wines there. Because each
awesome.
producer brings, a couple labels. So it was pretty cool.
Wine shows, wine tastings, they're always so much fun. You get to meet so many cool people.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, y'all, if you get an opportunity to do that, I highly recommend it. It's just a blast.
It's a lot of fun, and like I feel like every time I go to one, and it's been a while since I've been to one, but every time I go, it's like, okay, I'm not gonna drink. I'm just gonna like sample the wines, and I'm gonna be responsible. And it always starts that way
for the first 10, 15.
Yeah, and then
maybe. It's
like, fuck, I'm blacked out at a Steak and Shake now, and like it's always like, and then I'll like get home and I'll be like, fuck, I said I wasn't even gonna like drink anything, and here I am like fucking hammered off all these wine samples, because usually
it still absorbs into your mouth, and you're just like,
yeah. When for me it's like, okay, I'll taste and spit like for 20, 25 wines, and then it's like my palate shot. So I'm like, okay, I can either like keep pretending like I'm able to taste all this stuff, or I just start like full send. I'm going to drink everything. I'm not going to spit anything out. And it just like turns into an absolute train wreck. But I'm here for it, especially if it's free, like that's like the inner like college kid still in me, even though I'm like far removed from, not that far removed, but we've been out of college for a couple of years now. It's still like that, like, all right, I'm trying to get like now that I'm no longer tasting, like I'm here to party.
Here to party.
And respectfully, I'm not gonna like get up on a table and take my shirt off or anything, but like,
not without a couple of shots.
Yeah, exactly. All right, before we get into all that nonsense of me doing that stuff, so Jancis Robinson of jancisrobinson.com, she was the first person outside the wine trade to become a master of wine, which master of wine is like one of the hardest things you can do in the wine world. It's like master som, master of wine are like the two top like accolades that you could possibly get. And she was the first person outside the wine trade. So it's like people spend their whole career and their whole life in the wine industry, and like they can't achieve that. And she did it not being in the wine trade. So it's like that much harder she had to work to get all that information in her head and like do what she's done. She's an author of a couple books, Oxford Companion of Oxford Companion to Wine and Wine Grapes, as well as the co-author of the World Atlas of Wine. And her rating scale is on a 20-point scale. So kind of going back to like that original, like wine scale. Like to me, 100-point scale makes way more sense than a 20-point scale. I don't know about you. Like, I guess you could just multiply the scale by 5 to get that number, but I mean,
again,
like,
that's why the American brain worked better with that 100-point scale, and Robert Parker was so successful.
Yeah, because we're dumber than a box of rocks. I guess we need things to be like laid out for us, which is, I mean, fair enough. I'm kind of the same way. So, and then the next person, or the last person we're kind of going to touch on, Rene Gabriel. His is on a 21-point scale. And kind of the reason I put him in here is because it's like such a, like the 20-point scale, like, okay, it makes sense. 100-point scale, okay, it makes sense. 21-point scale, like what is that? So it's essentially the same very similar 20-point scale that Jancis Robinson uses, but that extra 1 point to get to 21, it basically has to be like an exceptional, or I think it's the exact quote was like a legendary wine from a historic vineyard. So think of like, one of the best vintages from, Domaine Romanée-Conti or Chateau Lafite Rothschild, or, one of those like Screaming Eagle, like one of those historic. Exactly. And, it's just like the best wine from that. He's known as the Wine Pope, and he's also the owner of Gabriel Glass, which is a high-end wine glass company. Their wine glasses are really nice. So,
have you had them? Have you used them? Have you used that wine glass?
Once or twice.
Yeah, I've got it right here.
No, I don't even know what this is. This is something that we probably got at TJ Maxx or something. I've got Riedels, but they're all packed away in moving boxes and stuff. So like, I don't know where they are. So it's just like, I got these cheap wine glasses at TJ Maxx. I mean, they're fine. They're not that great, but again, they're fine. It's fine.
They do the trick. It's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine. All right. Moving right on to online, other places to kind of look. Websites, like we've talked about, Wine Enthusiast with Robert Parker, Wine Spectator, Wine Spectator with Robert Parker, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then Wine Enthusiast is just another.
It's Wine Advocate.
Wine Advocate, just crazy. Anyways,
we're crushing it tonight. We're crushing it. No, I'm not making any cuts.
All right. Online, websites, you got the Wine Enthusiast, Wine Spectator, wine.com, Decanter, all places that you can kind of go and do some research, find some information about these wines and really enjoy them. And then there's also apps that are just like super convenient on your phone, like Vinos, and Wine Searcher, all places, again, to research. One of the really cool things about Vino is you can kind of scan a label and find info about it, which is really, really awesome, especially if you're just in a wine store and don't really want to talk to a wine or salesperson or something like that, and, kind of do your own thing and kind of do your own research.
Yeah, and it's nice because it'll, like, if you scan a wine on Vivino, it'll give you like both technical data, like from professionals, as well as like just random people that tried the wine and rated it. So you can kind of like get a feel for like, okay, here's these professional opinions, but like there's also people just like me that tasted this wine and like smelt mushroom and tasted black olives and, whatever it may be.
Just gave your own opinion, or like, whatever, this is what I think it is.
Mm-hmm. And it's nice because you can do the same thing. And I think that there's like a way that you can kind of like talk with other people on there and stuff. But it's also nice because you can use Vivino to buy wine too. So like if you're at a friend's house and they pull out a bottle of wine, you're like, wow, I really like that. You can scan it. It saves it to your profile. And then you can like pull it up later and buy it, if it's available in your area, which is kind of nice, and they'll ship it right to your door. So
super cool.
Yeah, make sure you're 21 years old though if you're going to use these apps. Don't be buying stuff and when you're 18 years old getting stuff shipped to your house, because they will check your ID when you get it when they drop it off. So
yeah, otherwise you lost that money. Sucks. Anyways,
yeah.
So what do you normally use?
So what I normally use is as far as looking at like professional wine ratings, my palate typically stays with James Suckling, or it is very similar to James Suckling in the, not saying that I'm in the same level as him, but I've noticed when he rates wines high and I taste the wine without knowing his rating, and I'm like, wow, this is really good. And I'll look it up and I'll be like, oh, well, James Suckling gave it a 97. Like that makes sense. He focuses a lot on Italian wines, and that's kind of the majority of the wines I drink or had drank for a long time were from Italy. And, you know, I've tasted a lot of the wines that he rated, and, you know, again, not like me looking up the wine and going, oh, James Suckling said this is 99 points, I need to go buy it. It's just like, I've had it and I'm like, okay, like it makes sense why he gave this wine 99 points. You mentioned wine.com. I use that a lot for buying wine. It's nice because you can get what they call the stewardship program, and they will give you free shipping. They'll give you exclusive wines that you can buy, which is very dangerous because it's all like futures of Grand Cru Burgundy and futures of first growth Bordeaux, which is just ridiculously expensive. And I always like click on it and look at it and I'm like,
maybe in a year or two.
I'm like, the future's only $700 a bottle. When they release it, it's probably gonna be $1,000. You know, it's not that bad. And then I'm like, I look at my paycheck and I'm like, yeah, I can't be buying no $700 bottles of wine because it might go up in 15 years to $900. And I would probably drink it in that time anyway. So the resale value is like not there for me. So yeah, it's nice. It's a little bit more expensive as opposed to like just going to the Kroger, you know, a local wine shop or something like that. But for me, because a lot of the times, like I'll look wines up at 10 o'clock at night or 11 o'clock at night. And it's like, you know, for me to remember that and then go to the store, or go to the store and they might not have what I'm looking for. It's just easier. Like I'd rather pay a couple dollars extra. I have free shipping, and then I know it'll be at my house in like 2 to 3 days. So
convenience.
It's the convenience. Yeah. And again, it's just that accessibility too, to like be able to find things that you might not be able to buy at your local wine shop. So yeah, that's kind of what I use for when I'm finding wine. And the other great thing about wine.com, if you're listening, wine.com, we're open for sponsorships. I've said that in so many podcasts and no one's ever reached out or anything like that, but that's okay.
You know, it's because of the listeners. We'll get there. We'll get there.
But the other nice thing is, we'll just use Moët as an example. You know, if you click on this wine here, it'll tell you if it's been rated by Robert Parker, James Suckling, you know, wine enthusiast, whoever. And then underneath, it'll give you kind of the winemaker's description of the wine. It'll give you a description of the winery or the producer itself. And then it'll even go down into like the region of which it came. And then even most specifically, like the grapes. So, you know, if this is 100% Chardonnay, it'll say Chardonnay, and it'll tell you a little bit about the grape. So it's really good for just kind of deep diving on a specific wine. And it's nice because it's all in one place. You don't have to like look all over the place. So that's kind of what I use. What do you use, Mason?
Nice. Well, I used to use Vivino like consistently, and, you know, scan, read reviews, whatnot. I'd look up the wines online on, you know, wine.com or wherever else, you know, just kind of random reviews. But, you know, as I've kind of progressed and pulled away towards more spirits and whatnot, you know, I've gotten away from wine a little bit. And so with that, I use my wife. And she is very convenient, and
She's always there.
She's always there, or a phone call away, and we chat, we talk about it. She's super knowledgeable, so like anything any questions I have, she almost always knows the answer. I'm like, jeez, you're so smart. And it's like, how did I get so lucky? But anyways, on the side note, she just like always has like an answer, always knows the generalistic. So it's really cool because when we go out to eat, we first talk about, normally white or red or champagne. And then once we figure out what kind of category we want to go into, then she pulls 3 different wines from that category and goes, this, or that. And I go, ooh, tell me a little bit more descriptor of this one or that one that I may not know. And then, bam, 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 and we've got a decision. And so, it's very convenient and awesome that she has all that knowledge to kind of pull us. But otherwise, using besides Vivino and my wife, books are always a really great convenience to kind of dive deep. The Wine Bible was my go-to book that I'd always go into, and I'd like try to find the vintage, do some research to kind of figure out flavor profiles and things like that, or styles that I wanted to drink.
Yeah, I think that's great, and it's probably a good thing that you and I don't live closer, because I feel like the 4 of us would get into a lot of trouble if we went out to dinner, because it'd just be like,
damn, what, that bill was $1,000?
Well, the thing is, we probably wouldn't go out to eat all that much. We'd probably like just go to each other's house and like cook, because I mean we
brought out this bottle. Oh,
yeah, exactly.
Well,
but
this bottle.
Exactly, but at least you're not having to pay that restaurant markup,
That's true.
and honestly, the 4 of us are all CIA grads, so it's like we know how to cook. Right. It's not like we don't know what we're doing. Like, yeah, we're none of us are like restaurant chefs anymore, but it's like we know how to make a fucking decent meal and pour some wine into a glass. Like we can handle that. So,
right.
It actually probably wouldn't be that expensive because we just would kind of cook at home and stuff.
It'd probably be just as expensive as going out to the restaurant for 2.
Well, yeah, because
even for
because we would probably, instead of like going to a restaurant and spending like $200 on a bottle of wine that in theory would cost you like $50 at the liquor store, we would just go out and buy like a $200 bottle of wine. Right. It's like, so we'd probably spend the same amount of money, but we would be able to drink and eat a lot better
nicer
food. Yeah. And yeah. So,
sooner.
Yeah.
The guest bedroom set up, brother.
Yeah. You guys don't want no fucking roommates, man. That's for sure. All right. So
I'm just thinking for a week, long dinners.
I was thinking like, I was looking for a new place to live. No, I'm just messing. Yes. All right. So what are some benefits of wine rating systems?
So a lot of benefits, kind of the ease, if you see a wine that's 90 plus in points, that it's probably a good wine. And no matter what, even if you buy it as a person that has no idea what wine is like at all, you'll be like, okay, at least it got a 95. So it's probably pretty good. Even though it may not be your exact palate, it's probably going to be perfect for whatever category of wine it is. It's showcasing one of the best things, Right. What other benefits do you think that there could be?
Yeah, and I mean, I think that like, because going to a liquor store or a wine shop, like even for me, and I'm sure for you, and honestly, like I would say Alex knows more about wine than I do, your wife, and I'm sure it's still intimidating for her. Maybe not intimidating, but like overwhelming. I think that's probably the best word, because there's so many like bottles, there's so many producers, it depends like how they have the store set up. There's a lot to take in, a lot to process. And even for people who know wine and do this for a living and like understand what to look for and things like that, like just the volume of product that's there. So I think kind of a benefit of this is, some of these wine rating, especially I'm going to pick on Wine Spectator because they put the little gold foil stickers on bottles, and like people look at that, like they'll exactly it's something that's not like a traditional wine label. It's a different, maybe a different, like it's gold, it's kind of embossed, like it kind of, it's got texture to it. It's flashy, and people are like, oh, what's that? Oh, 90 points from Wine Spectator. Like, sweet. Like, sign me up. It's only $9.99. I'm not going to get into the legitimacy of how I think Wine Spectator rates their wines, but like for some people, it is like, it's a good thing because they can find an approachably priced wine at, say, $9.99. Someone has thought it has value. They gave it 90 points. They gave it 92 points, whatever it may be. So the wine, in theory, it's going to be good. It's going to be at least decent, right? And at that price point, if it gets someone that doesn't normally drink wine, or maybe they don't really know a whole lot about wine, they're going to see that 92 point sticker, 90 point sticker, 94 point sticker, whatever it is, and go, oh, wow, someone likes this wine that assumably knows a lot about wine. It's got to be good, and they'll buy it. So I think that that's a positive, because I think that, people will get more into wine, and that kind of breaks the barrier of like, well, there's 1,000 bottles in this store. How do I know what to buy? People go into a store and be like, I want to spend $10. I want to spend $15, $20, $30, $40, whatever it is. How do I find the best wine at that price point? And that rating could give you that answer. Especially if you like don't feel comfortable talking to the wine person, and honestly, like, just ask, because more than likely that wine person, they know what they have in their store. And if you're nice to them and seem interested, even if you don't know all that much about wine, just ask, like, hey, my budget is $30. How much?
X,
Oh, I thought you said $6, and I was like, I mean, with a budget of $6, like you probably should not be shopping at a wine shop. You should probably go into like Kroger. And again, if your budget is $6 for a bottle of wine, like, that's fine. It's going to be really hard to find a quality wine at $6, but I'm not saying it's impossible. It's just like, it's hard. So even if your budget's, say, $10, right? I got $10 to spend on a bottle of wine. What do you recommend? If you're nice to the person, seem interested, even if you don't know anything, they might like hook you up. They might be like, well, normally I sell this for $15. I'll sell it to you for 10. And it's an exceptional wine for the price. Like, rather than you just grabbing a bottle of Yellowtail or a bottle of Corbel or whatever it may be, just asking, because a lot of the times, like, that's their profession and that's what they're passionate about, and they want people to ask them, because they have to sit there all day and like look at bottles and do inventory. And if it can get them away from doing inventory for a few minutes, like, I'm sure they're gonna love that. So just ask, then you're not just relying on like some imaginary person's rating of 92 points. Like, if it's a wine shop owner's perspective and you can relate to them and actually have a conversation with them, and like, that's, to me, ideal. Yeah. Sorry, that was a fucking rant, but
I love it. It was great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what are some of the negatives do you think that could come from wine rating specifically?
Yeah, I mean, my big thing is, there's a lot of companies and a lot of individuals that are now rating wines. Even we're fucking rating tequila. We're not giving it a point score, but we're like, fuck 818. It's like, but who are we? Like, in the grand scheme of like, I trust my opinion, I trust your opinion, but like, right. People listening to it, like, well, I think Kendall Jenner is the best thing since sliced bread, and her tequila fucks. Like,
if you like marshmallows, yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. But there's so many people out there that are rating wines and rating different things. So I think that's one thing you have to kind of be conscious of is like, who do you trust? And, you know, like I think the best thing you can do is, you know, taste the wine for yourself. Like I would say, you know, pick out a wine that has some ratings to it, right? Like it doesn't matter who it is. Like if it's James Suckling, wine enthusiast, Robert Parker, right? Don't really pay much attention to those ratings. Like just taste the wine. If you like it, you know, form your own opinion. Like I would give this wine 91 points, right? And then go back and look, like, what did Robert Parker give it? What did so-and-so give it? And be like, okay, wow, they gave it 91 points or they gave it 93 points. Like, okay, that kind of matches what I did. Ooh, yikes. Smack the mic. You know, like maybe I can trust them and then I can kind of use them as a guide to buy wine. But you kind of have to be careful of like all the ratings out there, because there's a lot of people that, you know, I'm sure that there's some cash, you know, being folded up in you know, little $5 handshake, but probably a lot more than $5. And you know, I'm not judging. Like if someone were to give me $1 million to give their wine 100 points, like I'd probably fucking do it. You know, maybe it's selling myself out, but like money talks. So I get it, but you have to be careful. What about you? What are some negatives for you?
I think just some of the negatives with wine ratings is, you know, just winemakers just specifically becoming all like generic, I guess is the best way to describe it. Because like everybody wants 100 points from Robert Parker, because, you know, if you get 100 points from Robert Parker, then that means you sell 1 million cases. Whereas if you get a 95, you can only sell 500,000 cases. And the difference is just astronomical. Is just, again, yeah.
It's all money.
It's all that money, you know? And so like people, instead of making the wine showcase their own specific terroir or location, whatever, they kind of blend and pull and grow in the style to make sure it hits his palate perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
Which, again, not a problem if you like that palate specifically. But if you don't like that palate, and that is the dominant palate that leads the way for all wines, then that's all that the winemakers out there are going to make. And so, you know, trying to find that perfect balance, you know, like, I don't know. I think that kind of brings us towards the next one, which is like, you know, certain palates, you know, you got to just kind of find the palate that you enjoy the most, you know, and, you know, whether it's James Suckling or Robert Parker or, you know, Adam Shoemaker or Mason Aronson or whoever it is, Alexandra Aronson / Rotenstrike or Rotenstrike Aronson, you know, my wife. Anyways, you know, you figure out the palate that fits you specifically, that you're like, every time they drink something and they tell me it's good, I also think it's good. And so like when that happens, you know, you found somebody or something that works perfectly for you, and you just know that you can kind of vibe with them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I think that is like, you know, kind of like why, you know, like why I love what I do in the wine world. And now I'm not working necessarily like in wine every day. Cause I recently got a new job and everything like that. So, yeah, thank you. So I'm not selling wine on a day-to-day basis in a restaurant, which I miss a little bit. I don't miss the hours though. I like getting off of work at 5 or 6 o'clock at night. It's definitely ideal. But you know, like the thing that I love, and I'm sure like you do too, and your wife does, is, you know, like in person, people like asking you for advice, or, you know, like when I had my own restaurant, when my fiance and I had a restaurant, you know, I was the wine guy, you know, so people would come in and be like, you know, here's my budget tonight. What do you got? And my mind, and like why I didn't make as more money than I should have, is because like that fucking got me so excited. Like, all right, you got this amount of money. Normally I sell it for, you know, $20 more a bottle, but I'm going to like match your budget because I want you to try this specific wine. And that's the same thing. Like I was talking about a few minutes ago about just having a conversation with the shop owner or the sommelier or the wine buyer, because they might hook you up. Not saying that they're always going to hook you up, but like they love having conversations about wine because it's their livelihood. So just ask. And I'm sure that like, you know, your wife's family and friends do the same thing, and like are constantly like, I'll get a text message of, especially from my mom, like, I love my mom, like, and she's definitely listening to this, but like, I love it. Like, I'm not hating or anything like that, but like, she'll just like randomly send me a picture of a wine list at a restaurant. Like, what should I get? And I'm like, you know, okay, like I'm like fucking zooming in on my phone, like to look at this wine list. And it's like, you know, it's in a restaurant, so it's dimly lit. Like I can't fucking read it. And I'm like, oh, like this is a really good price, or, oh, this is a cool bottle. Like, you know, you should try it. And like, I love that shit though. And like, I love like, you know, my brother does the same thing. Like he'll be like, oh, you know, he doesn't really drink wine, but like, he'll ask me about certain things. And I'm like, with my brother, it's more about like cooking though. Like he'll send me a picture of like a raw steak and be like, how long do I cook this for? And I'm like, okay, like
depends on how, when, where.
Like, yeah, like how are you cooking it? Like how thick is it? Because me looking at a fucking like grocery store packaging with steak in it, like I can't tell the dimensions of the steak, you know. So like I feel like it's just that like people asking you, you know, again, I'm sure your wife and I'm sure you get that too, is like they always want to know your advice, because like, oh, if Alex likes it, or if Mason likes it, if Adam likes it, like it's got to be good.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is scary. You know, like and it's not that I have that many people that like ask me, but it's like I feel like it excites me and I love it, but I also feel a lot of pressure, even though it's on such a small scale. Like if I pick something for someone and they fucking hate it, like I look like an idiot, or like, you know, why'd you make me buy this? Like, this is fucking disgusting. And like, that makes me sad, you know, like it's dramatic, but it's like you build up this trust in people. And then like, when you give them something and they don't like it, you're like, okay, well maybe my palate's fucked up. Or like, you know, I wasn't trying to like push something on you, like just to make you buy it. Like, I actually feel like this wine deserves, you know, respect. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's just me. Respect. But yeah, I think that's for me. What about you? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
You know, I agree with you. Like, anytime somebody asks, it's like such a encumbrance. Like, you just like, you want it to be perfect. Like one of the big things that I feel like happens to us is like when a friend, family members, they come over, they go, "What you cooking?" You know? Mm-hmm. And it's not only what you cooking, it's what you serving with that. What are you drinking with that? And so like trying to find that perfect balance all the time, or recommend something or whatever it is, it's just like, man, it's got to be perfect every time.
Yeah. And I think that it's not. Like, I feel like for me, like, especially, I'm not going to speak to you, but like, you know, when I'm like, get home from work during the week, like, I'm not really about like that perfect pairing.
Yeah.
You know, I don't really give a fuck, you know, like, am I going to eat fish and like drink red wine? Probably not. But like, you know, especially if it's been a long day, like I'm really not gonna like, oh, what's the sauce? What, you know, oh, you're basting that with butter? That's gonna change like how my palate's gonna perceive this wine. I'm like, you know, like I'm gonna have a beer. You know? I'm gonna have a beer. I'm gonna have a tequila soda. You know, like I'm not gonna like, I don't spend my life, because I think a lot of that is like, when you do it all day, you know, the last thing you want to do is do it for yourself. But some days you do. Like, some days you're like, okay, I actually want to like think this out and like splurge and make sure this makes sense. but it's like, you know, today for dinner I had Chick-fil-A, and like now I'm drinking champagne. Like it works. It's a pairing. I have the two together? No, but because my champagne was still fucking piss warm from Kroger, you know, I had to throw that shit in the freezer. But like, you know, most days it's just like whatever's for dinner, and like whatever I feel like drinking. Like I'm not really pairing every day for myself.
Yeah.
But I think people think we do.
I don't know. You know, it's just like, does a construction worker go home and, you know, make sure everything on the house is exactly a T perfectly every time they get back to their house? Like,
yeah,
no. But, you know, I guess they have their comparisons.
Yeah, because I mean, it's at the end of the day, like it's exhausting. Like even though if you love what you do, like it's still work, right? So like if you're constantly like, you know, talking about food and pairings and all these logistics and things like that, like the last thing you want to do is do it for yourself. Which we deserve to do it for ourselves, but it's more like it's almost like more work. Like I'm not trying to get home and do more work. Especially work where you're not being paid for, you know, like it's just like, it's probably good for your mental health. For you, that's it. Yeah, it's good for your mental health, but like, what is that? You know, you don't need good mental health.
Hey, wait, that's first podcast of this
first year. First podcast of the year.
Balancing it out, everybody. You know, it's all about.
Yeah, I mean, you could just go back and listen to the first podcast of 2023 and like have perfect mental health. You know, like it'll be great. Whenever I'm feeling sad, I just go back and listen to that, and I feel so much better.
Yeah, I do too.
Such a fucking asshole.
I love it. All right, so you know, what is the best? You know, what do you think is the best to use?
I mean, I think that's just kind of up to you, up to the individual, you know, like find something you like and go with it. And be unapologetic about it too. You know, like if you think Wine Enthusiast or Wine Spectator is like the creme de la creme wine rating, like group or whatever, cool. Like more power to you. Like, you know, you do you, but you know, and I think it's just like trying to match your palate with one of those professionals that you can kind of relate with and just kind of using that. Again, even if you don't buy wine online, like doing research online, because there's so many great platforms with so much information. Like, you know, I'm just going to use wine.com because like that's what I use the most. Even if you don't buy it from there, the amount of information that's all in one place is like incredible. So even if you just use that as a guide and be like, okay, cool. Like now I know what white grape varietal grows on Mount Etna, you know, like now I can use that information to find other Etna Biancos, you know, like I don't know. It's such a random fucking example, but I think it's really just up to the individual. What do you think the best is?
You know, again, I'm always going to say my wife because, you know, brownie points are always worth it.
Facts.
But, you know, I don't know, like personally, like using Vivino was one of my favorite things because it just gave you ideas on what it was and not really what it was. So I got to formulate my own thoughts and whatnot in which I, after tasting the wine, would grade it basically. And so that was one of my favorite styles of kind of learning. And then, you know, same thing with the wine books. When there's no grading specific on it, you know, you get to kind of formulate your own thoughts, and there's no pre-assumption that this wine is graded 70 points and it's terrible because it's 70 points. But like, you know, if I love it, I love it. You know, fuck everybody else. Honestly, sorry about my language, but you know, fuck everybody else. You know,
fuck everyone else.
You know, if you love it, it is good, period. You know, even if the wine professionals don't like it, it's your own palate. It's your own thing. It may not be good in terms of, you know, the world scale, but something you enjoy. And, you know, at least you're trying to enjoy wine. And that's like that's the beginning. That's the start, and then you get to really learn it all.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Like it's just like the perfect pairing. Like, I kind of use that. Like you can kind of interchange the two. Like the perfect pairing to me is not the perfect pairing to you. Like there's expert pairings. Like things that hypothetically work really well together, but it's really up to your palate. You might really fucks with tilapia and camus, like yikes. But like if that's your jam, like literally if that's your jam,
that's your jam,
run it.
I guess if you throw like a heavy jam on it,
like tilapia with like blackberry preserves, like blackberry cocoa preserves with mega purple added to it. Yeah. If that's what floats your boat, man, run it.
That's what floats my boat. That's what boats my float. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All right. So what's this question of the day?
So the question of the day that we have for all of you today is how do you decide what wine to buy? Do you do research? Do you just go to the liquor store, the wine store, and like close your eyes and spin in a circle and like whatever your finger lands on, like the wheel of fortune, that's what you buy?
That's the next way I'm gonna do it for sure.
Yeah.
Spin.
Yeah. But make sure you like knock a bunch of shit off the shelves and stuff too.
Those are all things I don't pay for, right?
Yeah, I didn't do that. I was just trying to figure out what to buy. No, please don't do that. But yeah, how do you decide what wine to buy? We'd love to hear it. Feel free to DM us or, put it down in the comments of the podcast. Or even you can answer it right on Spotify. If that's how you listen to the podcast. So yeah, just type it like, how do you decide what to buy? Maybe it's Mason, you use Mason as a guide. Like we want to hear that you love Mason's expert opinion on wines. That all comes from. Yeah. I mean, you can say Alex, you could just put like Alex Rotenstrike Aronson is the reason why I buy wine. Like cool. The thing is, but we don't know unless you tell us. Like we think that's how everyone that listens to this podcast buys wine. Like they listen to us and they appreciate our opinion more than these people who are paid God knows how much money. But like we don't know that. Like if you tell us that, we'll go to sleep happy tonight. That got really fucking emotional and deep. Yeah, not really dark, but like I almost started crying there.
Don't worry. We're here for you.
I've pretty much drank an entire bottle of champagne. So should we wrap this shit up?
Let's wrap this up. All right, brother. Well, I'm Mason Aronson,
and I'm Adam Shoemaker,
and let's keep on blending, y'all. Gotcha.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, just make sure you again
like, subscribe.
Make sure you smash that subscribe button. Smash that subscribe button. Like us on Spotify, follow us on our page. And big news, Mason. I can't really give too much information, but we got a consulting job. We're consulting on a wine list. Again, it's top secret information, but really great for the business. Because someone trusts our opinion. Someone trusts our opinion and wants to pay us money to consult for them. So we'll take it. But yeah, just like, subscribe, smash, whatever, all those good things. And until next time, Mason. Keep on blending, bro.
Keep on blending.
All right. Peace, y'all. Love you guys.